So we're excited about this opportunity to once again bring you back to the platform, Pamela, for our Wellness Wednesday presentation,
Thank you.
Finding Peace in the Midst of It All. This has been a great month, would you say?
I think so. I think so.
Yes, most definitely. It's been a wonderful month to kick off this awesome program. God is so good. He's so very faithful. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on a second. This is my first opportunity with the new Facebook. Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh. So great opportunity. So many things have changed with Facebook that, this is the first time that that I've had the opportunity to go live from Zoom to Facebook since they made the changes. But we're live now, and I'm excited about it. So we're live on Facebook as well. And I believe Rich is joining us as well. So we've just prayed for you, sir. How are you feeling?
Hi, Rich.
Hey there. Trying to see you.
You
There
feeling better?
There we go. Hey.
Are you
I'm
feeling better?
doing better. Cough. Still tired.
How's Christine?
Not too bad either. Still tired and yeah. I don't know if she still has too much congestion. That was one of her main symptoms there, was that. But for overall fairly mild compared to what some are experiencing, but it was.
So is COVID as bad and
It's like the flu. I was getting weak, but then I had chills, unexplained. Sitting there, all of a sudden, I'm freezing. And you gotta go put layers on, get in the covers, and try to warm up. And if I moved, I got chilled again. That happened 2 or 3 times over a few days, so that was not pleasant. Chest, I could take a deep breath, but it would feel as kind of I tell people, like, if you ran out in the cold weather, you have that burning kind of sensation from the cold.
Yeah.
That was kind of what I had to just kind of sit there.
Whoa.
Still a little bit there, but I can
Yeah.
breathe, take a deep breath.
I spent that 7 days in the hospital, 7 days in the hospital in April with those symptoms. They put me in isolation.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Fortunately, I missed out on the hospital.
But God is faithful.
He is. Rob Bigham.
Hello.
Hey, man.
How are you?
All right. Is that the COVID hairstyle I see?
Yeah. Yours too, bro.
No. It's pretty normal. I cut mine at home, so it's always the same.
Well, we're just thrilled that you're recovering, and
Thanks.
For Christine, she tested positive
Yeah.
first, right?
Yeah, I didn't go get tested because I figured I probably had it based on all the symptoms.
Okay.
It's not like I was sick with something else when she tested positive with COVID.
Not likely.
Not likely. No.
Well, we're glad you're here, and you're such a trooper. I don't get that. I mean, you're just working right through it. So thank you.
I've been sleeping a lot, so I didn't get up till probably 10 o'clock this morning. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, officially, welcome to our Wellness Wednesday opportunity to be a coaching service. And if you desire consultation beyond this platform, I'm going to, and I know Rich and Pamela are probably tired of introducing themselves, but give us a snippet of who you are and what you do and the service that you have available to our participating audience. I'm so excited. Pamela and I pre-program going live, pre-live. We're discussing just what a great month this has been, September. The onset, we kicked off 5 weeks ago, finding peace in the midst of it all. And each week we bring a specific topic that they hone in on. And so this has been great feedback from our listening and viewing audience. So Pamela and Rich, give us that snippet of an introduction of who you are and tell us a little bit about this platform.
All right. My name is Rich Oswald. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I have a master's in counseling, but also a master's in engineering. And want to use the platform to best help people where they are, provide some of the information, insight, encouragement from us individually as therapists, but also from scripture to improve, hopefully, your world, your attitude a little bit during this time of crazy, but also after the time of crazy, whatever normal we get to, that can help you sustain and improve your life, and then God in business with you. And I've been doing this for 16 years. I have a private practice in Snellville. I work with individuals and couples. I'd be glad to talk with you. I can do stuff virtually or in person.
I guess I can start backwards. I can provide services virtually or in person.
Do that.
And my name is Pamela Bridgman, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, master addictions counselor, and a certified clinical trauma professional. I have been doing compassionate care since 1976. I have a private practice in Cartersville, Georgia, called The Healing Journey Counseling and Consultation. In addition to doing individual couples and family counseling, I can also do management training and other consultations, corporate organization as well. And just ditto what Rick says about our hope for this platform, and that is that you are able to pick up some tidbits about how to not only put God back in the business, but how to find contentment in your business place. Not just during the midst of this pandemic, but in general. I think today we're talking about, I know today we're talking about how to have contentment in the marketplace. Last week we talked about why have contentment in the marketplace. And this week we're talking about how to have contentment in the marketplace. And as I have been thinking about this in a way that I have as a director and a CEO of organization, promoted contentment in the marketplace is the overarching principle. You will find contentment when everyone stays in their own lane.
Mhm.
Everybody must stay in their own lane if this contentment thing is going to work. Just staying in their own lane. Rich, what do you think of when you think of staying in your own lane?
Staying in your own lane. I guess the term that comes to my mind is boundaries, and kind of knowing what our role is and where it stops and where other people's role starts. And that includes the work as well as emotional and responsibility wise, and staying in your lane. And that covers a lot, basically our whole person, however that role plays into the world.
Yeah. And staying in your own lane, you hit on one thing that I think is important as to how it finds or it helps with contentment or peace And that is when you establish and maintain your boundaries, it decreases conflict and therefore increases that sense of, I don't mind being in this place because I'm not, it's not contentious. I'm not having all this he said, she said, and all this conflict with other people.
Mhm.
How do you see it as a way of maintaining or promoting rather contentment, that
Contentment.
whole issue of staying in your own lane?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yours is great. Thinking of coworkers and the he said, she said is often sort of a competition or a conflict between peers. That is, I think, the vertical as well is the setting the tone of contentment from the leadership is down to the employees. It's like I don't mind working here because I feel like I have a lane that I know and I can stay in it, and my boss, the superiors, whatever, have a lane that they're staying in, and they're not getting cross confusion there of I feel like I have to take care of my boss's stuff or my boss is
Right.
micromanaging down into my area. That often causes
And I think for managers, for us as managers, that helping people stay in their own lane, it goes to making sure that you have a real clear job description as well.
very
You
true.
know, I don't know how many of you I've been working since what uh, 1970. That's not my job, and one of the reasons people can say that's not my job is because they really don't know whether or not it's their job. And so, for us as managers, it's important to have a very clear job description for people. Okay, so yeah, I can stay in my lane if I know what my job is. And again, going back to everybody staying in their lane is the main way to promote contentment and peace in the marketplace.
Okay.
Matthew, you had an observation.
Yeah, I do. A couple of things, and I'm probably going to muddy this water just a little bit here
It's your
because
job.
I need, that's my job. Okay, thank you very much for permission. Because a couple of things that I'm thinking, and I'm just going to throw them out and ask you to deal with those. When you say stay in your lane, I'm a huge proponent of that. And even if we use the analogy of when you're driving and you're on 85 or something, or 285 or some expressway, and there's an opportunity that when I cause myself stress, when I'm crossing over into someone else's lane and I don't have permission or I'm not in a good space that has been provided for me to adequately do that. But in the view of current workplace, teams, opportunities for cross training, things like that, it's important if you're going to be valuable to your organization that you also be skilled across the lanes. Does that make sense? And that, but how to maneuver, is that what you're talking about? And how to make sure I'm
Right.
signaling and to say that I'm crossing lanes. Is that what you're
And
talking about?
signaling is, to use your analogy, signaling is important. So yeah, I may be skilled in a number of things at my job. I think in particular about something happened to me once that really taught me. I was a director of a program, and I had an administrative assistant. And because I had also been an administrative assistant at times in my career, I found myself I do my own typing, I do my own filing, and one day she said to me, Ms. Bridgman, you're paying me an awfully high salary to do nothing. That's not your job. You can do it, but you're paying me to do it. And so just because you can do something, and you may even, for me, it was like, well, I feel like if I do it, it's gonna get done right because it's gonna get done my way.
Yeah.
No, we have to be able to, because my other point is Romans 12 is where I was going to next, where it talks about different gifts. We have different gifts, but everybody must use their own gift. And so in the marketplace, it goes back to Beth, the job description. If my job description is this, Rich is a licensed professional counselor with an engineering degree. Or mechanical.
Same thing. Yep.
I don't want him to counsel me while he's designing my building or whatever he does with his mechanical engineering degree. I want him to use his mechanical engineering degree to do mechanical engineering and his LPC to do counseling. And that's what we must do in the marketplace in terms of staying in our own lane in order to promote contentment. Because if we don't, right, then one of the things we're looking at, love has to be present in the marketplace as well too. And love in terms of 1 Corinthians 13 love, which just says love is patient, love is kind, right? You got to do all those things in the marketplace too. And if I am not patient with the next person, we're going to cause contention. If I'm not kind, or if I'm jealous because that person is doing something that is supposed to be my job and then maybe gets recognition from the boss because of something that's supposed to be my job, it's going to cause contention. And so being really focused on doing, and Beth, I like your word, and I use this word all the time. I prefer teamwork. Team. If I'm on a team, there's not two pitchers on the mound at one time. There's only one pitcher on the mound.
Right, exactly. Yes. And one thing that you mentioned, that love has to be present in the marketplace. And I have in our newsfeed on Facebook, and I'll put it out too. So Rob, you may have some comment on this as well. But what does love look like in the marketplace? I want to hear some feedback. Maybe you guys deal with that as well. I have a definition in the book that I referred to last week that I've written on the fruit of the Spirit at work, from love to self-control and all 9 parts of the fruit. But I want to hear you guys deal with that on a practical standpoint, and even to get some input from the participation that we have right now on Facebook. I know Nikki's out there, Lyndon. Anyone else that's out there, please let us be known and share this news feed on your news feed. Share this live on your news feed. And Rob, if you have any input, I want to have you guys deal with that for us, please. Okay?
Yeah, obviously I have some thoughts. Since I was the one who came up with the topic, I have some thoughts, but I'll save my thoughts until later. Rich, when you think of love in the marketplace, and let me just read the scripture, and I'm reading it from the NIV version, and I'm going to go back to Romans 12 as well. So I made notes that the overarching principle is that everyone should stay in their own lane, and the way that they can stay in their own lane is by following Romans 12, becoming a living sacrifice, that is becoming using your different gifts and operating in love. And love is patient, kind, does not envy, does not boast, is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, is not easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth, protects, trusts, hopes, perseveres. And all of those, in order to have not just a marketplace without strife, but in order to have a marketplace in which you are pursuing and achieving your mission and your vision, all of those must be present from my point of view and from the way, I mean, it's the way I run a healing journey. It's the way I've always operated when I've been in a director's or managerial position. But your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot there. When I think of the love, you read
Anyone
through
else
it.
have any thoughts?
Yeah, can you hear me? I don't know if it's my internet side or what. My
I can hear you. I don't know if anyone else can.
Loud
okay.
and clear.
All right. So let's think of love. There's so much different components to it, and contentment, and love. Practically, too, is not only loving other people but loving ourselves. And we think discontentment. One of the ways I think it can happen is we don't love ourselves. So we're always searching for something to feel good about or to feel we're good. So sometimes we can go into the marketplace not loving ourselves and looking for some sort of feedback from the marketplace, and it's not cooperating with us. So we're getting discontent because of that. That's not staying in our lane, right? It's not you hired me for a particular job. It's you hired me for a particular job, but I want you to recognize more of me and to give me the stuff that's outside my lane so I can prove myself worthy of things. And that typically doesn't help. It makes it worse because now we're invading other people's lanes and not staying where we are.
Yeah, we talked a couple of weeks ago. I think about that inner peace meeting, having that inner peace before you can exude it outwards.
Outwardly. Yeah. So we're talking about how to have peace in the marketplace. I think that's definitely a part of how to stay in our lane. Beth, you mentioned cross training. I think cross training is different than staying in our lane of responsibility. I mean, if one of our responsibilities is to cross train, then we are going to be in a different lane, right? Because like you said, Beth, we have permission
Yeah.
to go into that lane to do whatever it is there and then come back. And we're signaling to go over there and somebody's making space. They are cross training us. We're not the ones deciding when to change lanes and cross train while we just slam somebody in the other lane, which doesn't make contentment, it makes contentiousness. Rob, you got a thought?
Yeah. So this is very fascinating and interesting to me, and and I guess what I want to ask about, it makes me think of a few things, and so I'll try and articulate those and kind of open up those boxes of worms, and you can figure out what to do with it. So it reminds me of working with folks from different cultures. So we had a team one time in the workplace. We brought a team from India over of about 4. It happened to be a team of all guys initially. There was a girl that was hired later as a replacement that did come over. But they were in the States for a month or 2, maybe it was 3 months, to just acclimate with our team inside of this financial services organization. And then they were going to go back. And one of the interesting observations was, culturally speaking, they were very, very good at staying in their own lane. And from an American I'm going to say American white male perspective, because that's where I'm coming from. It was really fascinating to me. In fact, I was encouraging one of them, you have some good ideas, you ought to share them. And he kind of said, he smiled and nodded, and he said, we don't do that from our country. And I said, why not? He said, well, because our leader, and we had a really interesting relationship. We invited him into our home, and he had never seen an American home, and just seeing paint that was colored paint on walls was just fascinating to him. He felt like this was such an amazingly wealthy home that he was. And so we really became open and vulnerable and sharing about our different cultural experiences, and it was very educational for me. But one of the things he said is, it's not my place in our culture, it's not my place to have ideas. And if I have an idea that I share, I wait for my leader to share that idea. And so I, as an American male perspective, was thinking, you're letting so many things fall to the ground that you could contribute to the team, that you could step just outside of your lane, if that's the way you perceive it, and contribute to a better solution for the team. And I had to, so we were coaching them while in the States to try and be a little bit more proactive and be a little bit more out there, and take more risks and encourage them publicly to do that. Now, culturally, they still were very, very hesitant to do that. And they may do it in a one-on-one conversation, but they would never do it in a way that would be perceived as not honoring their leader. So that's one topic that I would love to get some perspective on. And then maybe related to that is, how does that spill into the world that we now live in, where we have this whole world of microaggressions, right? Where we are very, very much more aware currently of microaggressions in our environment, and how I may say something that offends my brother or sister, and we're trying to encourage them to be transparent about that, and communicate that. Raise your hand and say, you know what, you probably don't realize this, but what you just said what could be offensive, whether it was offensive to me or not. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop there, because that's probably enough to chew on for at least three minutes or so.
That's good. I don't know if either of you will address that, but what I would like to tag to that is, he mentioned a key word about perceptions, because the perception from the scenario you described could have been that they were lazy, or communication is key. I still have that question out there about love. What does love look like in the workplace? And want some more information on that. But according to Rob, just tagging along those lines, perceptions are true to the beholder, to the perceiver. And so even in the case of staying in your lane, communication is necessary, because it could look like you don't take initiatives. Someone could perceive that as you're not taking initiatives. So I would love for you to share more.
Yeah, and I'll say, in that culture, love required them to honor their leader. And in my culture, love requires me for you to engage in the conversation and be part of contributing to the solution. And so the same behaviors were not interpreted as love. Same thing for microaggressions. I might say to somebody, wow, your hair is so beautiful, the way it's so curly. And you go, who cares about, why are you talking about my curly hair? And I wouldn't think twice as a guy to, Rich said something about my hair growing, doesn't offend me. I'm just praising God I got hair, right? And so how is it from our different perceptions and perspectives? And I guess I'll share what comes to mind as I share these things is a couple scriptures, 1 Corinthians 6:12. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful, right? And another all things verse, love believes all things, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Where you fit that in within the microaggression world that we find ourselves, where we're trying to be more sensitive culturally, at the same time, there's this flip side of the coin where at the same time, if I'm content, I'm not going to have the shortest fuse in the world, and I'm going to assume positive intent on the behalf of other people that I'm interacting with and talking to. But we can only do that if we really get to know them, right? And so from a love perspective, there is something there. I'd love to hear your perspectives on
that. Well, you said a lot of different things, Rob, but getting to know each other is probably what stands out to me of the things you've talked about so far, because love is concerned about the other person and really understanding them. We don't necessarily have to line up, but we do have to understand. And then depending, I'm thinking the positions of our culture or a job, right? Like who is setting the culture for the company, right? Because if I'm going overseas to whatever country that is not where I came from, I kind of tell people you kind of have to play by the rules of that game. You may not agree with it all. It may not be the game like you want to play it, but it is the realm you're in. So if you want to stay non-offensive, it would be good to learn the way they operate there. And then vice versa to say, hey, what do you know, Rich? And here's some of the things we need to educate you on and how to work.
I also want to bring it back to the topic of this topic. And so today we were talking about how
Pamela,
to,
I can barely hear you.
we were talking about, can you hear me now?
A little better, not great.
Did you move a microphone or something? I barely hear you.
No. Probably doing what I did the last time. Can anybody hear me at all?
You're getting
Yeah.
louder. Yeah.
Tilt the, are you on a laptop? Can you tilt your laptop lid down toward you just a little
No,
bit?
I'm not on the laptop, but
Okay,
so we
it's
were
better.
talking about how to implement in the workplace. So and setting the tone. One of the things I think it's important is getting to know each other. So you're going to have team building opportunities, and you're going to have staff meetings where you are, or clinical staff meetings, or in other organizations like financial organizations, team building opportunities for people to get to know each other. That's one of the ways to bring contentment into the marketplace. Love always protects. And so to protect my team, I'm going to make sure that they are trained. I'm going to make sure that they understand whatever the ethics of my profession is and what the laws are. So when we're talking about implementing contentment, implementing it in the marketplace, we've got to look at it in the context of organizational development as well. So looking at love through that, and then that cultural respect, Rob, that's a whole week-long conversation in itself. I used to teach cultural competence at Kennesaw State University, and that just looking at that is a whole different basket, you know, when you're talking about cultural respect and cultural competence.
Okay, so I agree with you 100%. I was like, Rob, what a can of worms to open today. And I know that is outside the scope, but this is a good comment, a very good comment. But this is
Yeah.
what I want to say. And we thank you on Facebook for Angela. Jessica's there. Nikki's there. A couple other people out there. I don't know who you are, but please let us know who you are. And if you have any input, please, we solicit that from you today. What I ask was, from your marketplace, what does love look like in the marketplace? How do you demonstrate? How do you exemplify that? And I promised to share the definition that I arrived at years ago in my writing, The Fruit of the Spirit at Work. And love, founded on love, was the first chapter because that's the first part of the fruit. And how do you demonstrate Christ-like love in the workplace without proselytizing and being respectful to someone's cultural, religious views and things like that? So what God gave me based upon John 3:16, and we all know it, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that whomsoever shall believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And so I actually broke that down. Love is to purpose in your heart to be utilized for the total service of making others successful. And in the book, I actually broke down, for God so loved the world, he gave. He purposed in his heart to make us successful. And that's why he gave. And so I was hoping to hear more opportunities of serving, because we are to serve one another through what? Through love. And so love doesn't have to be spoken to be shared. It's really the most opportunities, from my opinion, to display love is through actions, not just words we say. So if I'm in the workplace and I want to model love, it's okay for me to be courteous. Someone has copies that they've left at, the copier. And if I just go deliver those instead of putting them to the side and say they'll come back for them. I'm thinking that's minute, but it's a demonstration of love. Maybe there's an opportunity to do other gestures. Is their workload, and I know you guys have been really good about talking through permission and making sure we're in our lane and authority and not moving outside of our lanes. But maybe there are other opportunities to take initiative to assist someone with their workload, or to offer a suggestion, processes or things like that. I don't know what you think, but that's the definition I promised from last week to share.
I'm thinking of staying in your lane, where I think when Pamela was talking about that, it was pretty focused on job description and not having the discontent influence because people are crisscrossing with job responsibilities, or it's unclear what their job responsibility is. So it's really easy to kind of step on each other's toes because there's a lot of assumptions being made on what the job really is. Beth, you're kind of hinting to more, to my perspective, as the interpersonal, right? It's not, we don't have to argue, it's not my job to take these copies to, well, it's just courteous caring to, was it going to take you a couple minutes to walk the copies over to their spot if you know whose copies they are? That's, to me, is not a job responsibility thing. Go ahead, Pamela.
That's interacting, because I went on to say to become a living sacrifice in the marketplace too. Being that living sacrifice has to do with that interaction, interpersonal interactions with people in the job, as opposed to just the sterile topic of what the job is, and the mechanics of the job, but has to do with actual interaction with one another, which would involve those things that you were talking about, which then leads to making sure that we use the gifts that we have, because our gifts may enhance the gift that the person next to us has, not take over, but it helped to enhance it. And then you do all of that in the context of love, enduring, trusting, hoping, persevering.
Yeah,
Wow.
Philippians 2:14 talks about doing all things without complaining and disputing, that you may become blameless and harmless children of God, without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. I think there's a real opportunity for us staying in our own lane, and I really think for me personally, the most challenging and powerful aspect of that is, we're always so busy trying to self-promote and trying to think about how we can differentiate ourselves from somebody else, and all this marketing-esque busyness and the self-promotion that goes on in social media now. It's just it can be pretty nauseating, and you can really differentiate yourself by doing things without complaining and disputing. I mean, it's just that's such a differentiator
Absolutely.
today,
Absolutely.
because so many people
Absolutely.
are whining so much, and just looking at life and experiencing life as a victim rather than as an overcomer.
Great
Overcomers don't have any.
observation, Rob. Great observation.
Overcomers don't have anything to prove. Overcomers, when they're attacked, they don't need to attack back. God is our defender and our protector. And wow, if I could just walk that as easily as it is to say it, right?
But how powerful,
Absolutely.
how
Right.
powerful is that, right? Pamela may be speaking to that in just a second, but I think that is so powerful, is that I know there's a lot of noise in the news feeds after something that happened on television last night that I don't dare even speak of on the GCBN platform.
I was going to open up that can of worms.
I dare not. Don't even. But anyway, keep me past what I'm trying to say. But it is up to us. It is up to us as Christians, as true men and women of God, to change what's happening. And why am I saying this? Isn't it up to the church? Well, guess what? We are the church. We are the church. And so the opportunity lies upon us. It is upon us to make the difference. And we have got to walk in leadership. We have to. We have to in the workplace. We have to even be leaders. I don't say that you're not a pastor or evangelist. I'm an evangelist, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking Christ leaders. Christ leaders. And I'm feeling a little passionate, so I'm going to pull myself back.
Right.
Okay, just a little bit, because this is the opportunity. We're in the marketplace a third of our lives, a day, given a day. A third of that time is spent where? Pre-COVID, in the marketplace. Even times now, there's opportunity for us to be salt and light. And it doesn't have to be telling people what they need to do. It needs to follow Jesus' pattern of being Christ-like. He went in serving. He didn't look to be served. He went for the opportunities is where may I be of service. I love what you were talking about complaining. We love to complain. What's not happening? My daughter, she manages a team in corporate. and with fellow peers. And she chooses to serve her team. And she was telling me about an occasion. She called me up. She had taken a lunch, a breakfast for her team and treated them. And this is something she does on a regular basis. And her peers don't understand serving the team, because if you can't do an expense report for it, then because all of that stuff's shut down because of COVID and such, then why would I do it? And so rather than their modeling what she's doing and making an investment in the team, what they do is they shun and they look for opportunities to try to get this thing disbanded that it shouldn't be happening, rather than to follow her leadership. So the opportunity as Christians is you are going to be met with resistance, because they don't understand. These things are spiritual and they don't understand. Do you stop? No, you continue to serve. Okay, Beth, be quiet. I'm out. I'm out.
Well, that's a really good example though, because it can be you really have to check your heart, because on the one hand, you're going against and in this COVID world, right? We find ourselves going against our authority at times. And are we going against authority for good reason, for a justifiable reason? And what is justifiable to me may not be justifiable to you. And that's one of the ways we have to work out our own salvation, with fear and trembling. Am I doing it because it's my right? Gosh darn it. Or are we doing it because we are being challenged to align, come under the leadership of the Lord and not the fear of man? Both of those are two very different motivations, right? And how do we walk through that, and how do we submit each day?
Succinctly, how do you put what Beth and Rob just said into our thesis, which is how to implement contentment into the marketplace? How do we put that, what Beth and Rob just said, into that thesis? I heard what we do is one way to bring contentment into the marketplace, or implement contentment in the marketplace, is simply to continue to be a servant. I think also is that respect of others. I had written down in my notes that it's important to understand that the janitor means just as much as the CEO, and to treat them with the same kind of respect. Remember, I think it was 2 sessions ago, we talked about how when a person feels respected, feels heard, they experience contentment. In some way, one of the ways to implement it is, as Beth and Rob said, just sort of being that example and being that servant, and also recognizing that no one person is better than other. You may be more skilled in an area, but that doesn't make you any better. And so to respect each person for who they are and what it is that they bring into the marketplace.
Good.
What do you think, Rich?
I was just making a few notes here after listening to what each of you have said, and I'll just go through them with 5 different ideas that you're trying to be succinct. We're talking about a variety of kind of concepts that sort of are packaged together in some ways to really implement contentment. They don't all have to be implemented in order to promote contentment, but they are things to think about as we're looking to implement them. And one of the things that stood out is one comment Rob said, which I emphasize, with people when we're looking at Jesus and we want to emulate him. What's one of the things he demonstrated? And Rob said it, he had nothing to prove, right? If we're going in, I say it kind of in a silly way, if I have nothing to prove, I have nothing to prove. I'm not going in self-promoting. I'm not going in competing with somebody else. I'm content to be who I am and to do what I need to do, right? So that we can implement that set of, I'm okay. What I bring is good. I don't have to show that I need to do something else. So that was one concept. And then when we're doing that, or even if we are struggling to do that, we can still serve, right? The phrase servant leadership, I kind of, I don't know, chuckle at it a little bit because it's like this new concept that's been around forever. Like, y'all read your Bible, because that servant leadership goes back thousands of years here. You're just labeling it now and bringing it into the marketplace as a secular concept. This is just mind-blowing in some ways, but hey, you just roll with it. And then another concept was everybody's valued the same, right? So if I'm serving you, I'm viewing that you're just as worthy of my time and energy as anybody else is. So coming in with that mindset that we're all the same, right? So when people come into my office, sometimes as counselors, we can either, they have the expectation that we do all this perfectly, or we know all the answers and it's easy. It's like, I'm no different than you. I tell my story, it's often just as messed up and sometimes worse than yours. And I struggle now still to do things. So these are concepts that necessarily none of us can apply perfectly. That's why we try to look at Jesus, who were the foundations, what I said earlier. Another thing of contentment is choice. I'm kind of a proponent of this, that choice goes both ways, that we often don't think about in the marketplace, meaning we often come towards the job or a marketplace hoping that we will be chosen to do the position, right? And we are looking to be valued by the company or their representative. And that's fine. That's part of what the culture, the activity we need to do in order to get work. But we often don't think about that we're also choosing if we want to work for them, right? And if I'm this focused on I need to get you to pick me, well, I might go pick, to work for somebody that I don't really want to work for because their culture, their attitude, their ethics are not in line with mine. So now I'm going to be discontent because I might be coming in a position and I'm supposed to stay in this lane, but I don't like this lane in this highway. So I want to try to change the highway or complain about the highway when I chose already to get in that lane, right? So if you don't like that lane, that's fine. Go move to a different highway. It's okay. But we get scared because we want to lose our job. Like, I get that too. This life is scary, but is God going to take care of us? Well, part of that, I think, in loving people is to say, hey, you want to operate that way? Fantastic. It's not my lane to kind of tell you what to do. I just get to maybe offer an influence or offer a suggestion, that I'm not the one ultimately responsible to implement it. So I've got to consider what I'm doing there. And then the final concept, when it comes to what Rob talked about culture and different, you mentioned different things, when it comes to loving, I think one of the primary deals is to seek to understand before we're understood. Stephen Covey, I give it to Dale Carnegie as the original person who said that. I'm not sure if it's Dale or Stephen, but I'm sorry, Pamela, your whole microphone has gone.
St. Francis of Assisi.
Is he the one that said it? Oh man,
Yes.
we're going back way before Carnegie then. All right, I correct that author then. But if we seek to understand before we're understood, then all the cultural things become, I think, more easy to at least implement contentment. Because I'm coming in going, okay, this is where I'm coming from, but I don't know what your perspective is. So would you please help me understand that so we can all be content in what we're doing with the culture of the company and our own ethnic culture and the culture we're in, right? Like I think about a company that's headquartered in Germany, but they have people in the US, for example, who are working for them. Well, we might complain on the US side about the German way of doing things. Like, when you pick to work for a German company, then German companies are going to do it as the German company's culture kind of promotes it. So what are you complaining about?
Okay.
Right? Is it, if you're coming in as a consultant to work to improve the company's effectiveness, well, now that's a different thing, right? Because you're bringing research, you're bringing methodology, you're bringing an understanding of what improves performance that's universal. Well, that's what your lane is. But if yours is to do accounting for the US side of things and they want it done in a particular way because the Germans do it that way, then okay, well, go along because that's the culture. It's like, it's not rocket science, but it goes back for me always back to who am I? Because if I, like Rob said, if I have nothing to prove, I have nothing to prove. So I'm coming in going, this is what I offer. Here's the lane I'm willing to stay in. Is your company cool with that? Because I'm cool with that. Let's rock on and do the work.
Rich, I want to mark one thing, and then I know, Beth, you're probably going to want to close it up pretty quick. So when you talk about someone that we're all unique and special in our own way, and no one's better than anybody else. There's this part of human nature that is insecure, that frequently can respond in the flesh to say, but I want to be someone special. I want to be someone that's more important. I want to be, and that's, that's pride that is responding. And that pride is frequently, I think, coming out of a place of that spiritual victimhood, if you will, right? That victim who doesn't feel validated being a child, even in the kingdom of heaven. I don't want to just be a child. I grew up, I remember thinking, I want to be David. I want to be Moses. I don't want to just be, some normal Christian. I want to be the rock star Christian. Well, what is that in me that wants to do that? And what am I called to? And so as an affirmation I read today that was really powerful for me is, today I will refuse to think, talk, speak, and act like a victim. Instead, I will joyfully claim responsibility for myself and focus on what's good and right in my life. And as we're talking about staying in our lane, recognize, I just thought that was a pretty neat summary statement for a lot of the themes that we're talking about today, and in trying to really break out of that victim mindset that can be such a leech that can suck life from us and keep us from living our full life that God calls us to, whatever our role is and whatever our lane he has put us in.
So I'll make a plug for Pamela and my job in industry. Is the value of it is getting down to some of those deeper ideas, because we're the victim mentality is one thing. Being a victim is legitimate. It's the victim had something happen to them that was harmful.
Right.
Could be small, could be big. That's just a victim.
Mhm.
So you have to address that. It's not, oh, I should not make that a big deal. I lost my leg, but it's really not a big deal. Just pretend as it wasn't happening. That's pretty significant loss. So how do you address that, compensate for it, learn a new skill, right? There are things that one of my good friends, I worked for him for a while, wonderful Christian guy, and was a concept, and maybe it's still out there, that it probably is. We need to separate our personal life and our business life. And for him and for me, that made no sense. Because aren't we bringing our individual personhood to our work? That's why we're hired, for our own unique skill set that has complete rootedness in who we are. So that's really kind of silly.
This is so good and such a wonderful discussion. I wish we could continue, honestly. I really, really wish we continue. However, all great things must come to an end. And the exchange has been excellent amongst ourselves. One thing that Stephen Covey said in the 7 Habits is, and I don't really know the full quote, some of you can help me with it, is people need to first know that you care. And what's the other piece to that, somebody? Because it's escaping me right now. But while you help me find that, I need to say this about this discussion. I need to feel significant. And we need to own the opportunities, from what I'm hearing from Rich, to go down beneath what's on the surface, because you never know. And as Christians, we have an opportunity to not make the assumption, but to be loving and caring. And as Christian counselors, and for your industry, as you say, Rich, these are great opportunities for people to check in with folks. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a conversation with someone that is skilled and trained to assist. I talk to people, don't I, Pamela? Don't I, Rich? I have conversations because I need to get my head straight, is what I call it, And so you have those conversations, and that's why they're skilled to be able to help you. Insignificance is a key driver to why there are so many people that are discontent, experience discontentment, not only in the workplace, but really in life. Can we just be real? And the other thing that I wanted to say from here and here is that not only are we experiencing that insignificance, but also that caring thing that Covey said. People need to know that you care, because number one, Rich said it to us earlier, people really don't care about themselves. And that's what they're doing. They're acting out on you. They really, and one thing from those of us that have an understanding, we need to walk in humility. And so, Pamela, thank you so much. We understand you have a standing 1 o'clock client. We appreciate your contributions. I want to give you a quick opportunity, Rich, if Pamela has to go, to send a shout out for next month, what we're going to talk about, okay, on this platform. I think it's wonderful. We're going to continue.
In the idea of contentment and discontentment, there's often promotes conflict. And one of the big ideas is, how do we deal with it? So we're going to look kind of at what some of the roots of conflict are, maybe revisit some of these topics that we hinted at here, but also look at the real practical ways to address conflict. What are some of the skill sets? What are some of the tools that you can use to reduce conflict, to minimize conflict, or to address and solve conflict when it does show up?
I hate that idea. It's such a stupid thing. What are you talking about? That's lousy.
Interpersonally.
Hey,
in
Rob,
families
it's
as
okay
well
if
as in the
you would
marketplace.
prefer to do something else during the time. That is completely fine.
Sorry, Pamela. Oh, Pamela had to leave. Okay.
Yeah. nice trying to instigate stuff there, Rob. I appreciate it. It's a
Yeah,
good
sure,
skill set
anytime.
to have. Provides a lot of contentment in the marketplace.
Yeah. Beth, you're
Oh,
on
you're
mute.
muted, Beth. Beth, you're on mute.
I'm on mute and talking away. But thank you guys for your participation. Those of you who had great activity, participation on Facebook Live, but they didn't put comments out there. They just said hello and such. But I want to thank Pamela. She's already left us for her appointment. And Rich, you guys are doing a wonderful job. I'm hearing from people offline that this is really helpful. So we will continue next month with talking about conflicts. Rob, thank you for joining us on Zoom. We've got some great announcements. Next Tuesday platform, we have an opportunity to welcome Letitia Joyner, and she's going to actually deal with some things in the marketplace and how to, I think she calls them the 4 Ps for promotion to director and C-level opportunities there. So we have an awesome lineup for October. We're about to release our October newsletter either today or tomorrow. Great opportunities. We're going to share about Rob's time management coming up, opportunity for those of you that need that productivity skill. There's some opportunities that Rob will be sharing with us. Also, we have another, Dr. Tanae is going to actually be presenting her nonprofit workshop for us, helping us with the 990 loan form and how to file that as well. Great things are coming up in October. I've got an announcement I'll make to let you guys know we've got some great transition things happening at GCBN. But thank you guys for joining us. Please stay abreast of what we're doing. Go to our website, www.gcbnetwork.com, to stay in tune. Reach out to us at info@gcbnetwork.com. We love you guys. God bless you. Keep us in your prayers. You're in ours. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.